Hello everybody, welcome back to the Game Room. Today I'll be answering the question, which systems had the best looking game box design? To prepare, I looked at over 1,000 images from every system released in North America, and I'm only considering the front of the boxes, not the sides, not the backs, not the durability. It's all based solely on my opinion. So here's my list of the 10 best. Number 10 is the Game Boy. What stands out to me when I look through the covers for Game Boy games is how many of them have cartoon-style artwork on the front. I like the look of it because it reminds me of the Saturday morning cartoons I used to watch. It differs from the cartoon style of handheld systems that would come later. The vertical lettering out to the side completes an overall nice look. Number 9 is the Odyssey 2. You can spot an Odyssey 2 game box from across the room because it looks like no other game box. I mean that in a good way. For the most part, they all have a black background, and they all have that nice looking Odyssey 2 logo, which is shooting outward. That's a pretty good start. Then there's the illustrations. Many of them are shooting outward as well. I don't know what you call this art style, but it has a distinctive look to it, consisting of a limited number of bright colors. Warm colors, I think. It comes together nicely. The substance of the art is very imaginative, showing things that are not of this world. This system also has some games in bigger boxes, and those look awesome as well. Number 8 is the Nintendo Switch. These have a nice clean look to them. The front isn't cluttered with logos, lettering, and borders, which allows the artwork to go from edge to edge. That isn't something very common on other system boxes. For the most part, the artwork is very well done, especially given the limited amount of space they had to work with. Number 7 is the PS3. Since they decided to have an area of transparency at the top of these cases, designers didn't have much space. It had more area than the Switch cases, but here it's more square, which puts some limitations on what you can put in it. They still pulled it off though, making their images very compact, yet very competent. The transparency at the top accentuates the artwork and lettering underneath, coming together in a nice overall look. Number 6 is the Wii U. They seem to have found the perfect color of blue and put it along the edges, and it helps make the gorgeous artwork pop out. There's a surprising amount of complexity in the images. Look how many things are going on in the artwork of Captain Toad and NES Remix and Nintendo Land. I did not realize they had this level of detail until I started making this list. I'm glad I found out, because these are very fun to look at. Number 5 is the Wii. The majority of these games have a nice look to them, thanks to the white border, most of which comes from the case itself. Since the system had kids as part of its core audience, the developers were not afraid to commission the use of bright colors, which really pop out next to the white borders. It's an overall bright look that was better than their competitors at the time, who went in a more dark, gritty, and depressing route. A little color makes everything better. Number 4 is the Atari 2600. The Atari 2600 had officially licensed games over an enormous 15-year span, from 1977 to 1992. With such a long period, there was naturally a lot of diversity in the box designs, but as a whole, they are some of my favorite boxes to look at. In particular, I enjoy Atari's early first-party releases, which had some of the most remarkable and complex illustrations to appear on this list today. At the time, they helped enhance my enjoyment of the otherwise simplistic video games. Many of them were done by Cliff Spohn. Sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. Do a Google image search on his name, and you'll see his very distinct style, which he also did for non-gaming media like books and catalogs. I describe his style as merged montage. Those illustrations are surrounded by a solid color border, with a large section devoted to showing the name of the game, and some details about it. Everything you need to know for a purchasing decision. Later, Atari went in different artistic directions with their designs. Third-party companies knew they needed to bring their A-game in order to compete, so each came up with their own distinctive look, most of which I find pleasing to the eye. I enjoy Activision's use of rainbow trails, and Imagic's use of silver and red. And I even like Mattel's M Network black and silver design. Number 3 is the Intellivision. Cliff Spone's artwork on the 2600 is remarkable, but Intellivision's may actually be better. It utilizes a larger percentage of the box, and it has some of the highest effort pieces of box art I've ever seen. Just look at how much detail was put in the Frog Bog, a simple game where you're a frog eating flies. The majority of them were drawn by Jarrell Richardson. The one thing he liked to do is use circles to show pictures within pictures. Surrounding that artwork are borders that use a variety of colors. In the early days of Intellivision, the colors indicated the type of game. Dark blue meant it was a space game, light blue meant sports, red meant action game, and so forth. They eventually abandoned the idea when they realized the action category was going to be too big compared to the others. Granted, not all the art they had was in the same style as I just mentioned, and later releases, especially third-party ones, went their own way with the design. Overall though, I think Intellivision game boxes are beautiful, in a late 70s kind of way. I wouldn't mind seeing some large-sized prints in a museum exhibit. Number 2 is the NES. By and large, NES game boxes are a pleasure to look at. They were designed during the late to mid-80s, when our collective gaming imaginations started soaring after being in the doldrums of the video game market crash. The worlds we were now experiencing on the TV screen were more complex than seen previously, so the artwork was more elaborate than ever. Much like the Atari 2600, the initial first-party game boxes had a consistent look to them. They were known as the black box games, for obvious reasons. They were 30 in all. I like the slanted text in the middle of the box. The black around the colored letters really makes it stand out. But the best thing about it are the pixel graphics above the lettering. They show what is close to the graphics that are actually in the game. Perhaps it was an attempt to show off the advances in graphical technology at the time. It's a classic look, and I never get tired of looking at it. Eventually the first-party games broke out of the black box mold. The most stunning to me are the two Zelda games. They showed a portion of the gold cartridge that was awaiting inside. Showing part of the cartridge was an amazing idea, and I'm surprised it never caught on. As far as I know, these were the only two games that did it. With all that gold on the Zelda packaging, it told the buyer that these were special games. And indeed they were. The other publishers had a field day in their box designs, and as a whole, they mostly looked good. They obviously felt the need to stand out from the competition, so they made great use of their graphical designers. Number 1 is the Super Nintendo. Nintendo wasn't messing around with their box design this time. It's as if they grabbed every publisher by the, trackballs and said, listen here, we need to create a consistent look and stick to it through the life of the console. What we got is one of gaming's most successful exercises in uniformity. Every SNES box game that I can see has the same black border design. That alone warrants a place on this list. There's beauty in uniformity. But there's more going on with these boxes. First off, they're in landscape mode, for lack of a better term. I believe the dimensions are the same as the NES boxes, just turned on its side. This totally changes the way the artwork is presented. I'm not a psychologist, but I imagine it's more soothing to the brain if we scope an image from left to right, rather than from top to bottom. After all, modern movie screens and TV screens have evolved to be in the same orientation. The N64 boxes had a similar aspect ratio, but they didn't look as good in my opinion. The SNES art overhangs the black bordering, in most cases. This is a huge boost to the overall look, because it gives the impression that things are sticking out, or characters are stepping out of the canvas. Even the art that doesn't do the overhang thing looks great amongst the black borders. The Mortal Kombat 2 logo looks better here than anywhere else it's ever appeared. I'm in awe when I see Super Nintendo game boxes. I'm also in awe every time you watch another video. Like this one here, where I go over the 15 worst looking game systems of all time, according to my opinion. May your games make you happy and smart, and may people respect you for playing them. So long, everybody.